Let's give our mothers a round of applause this morning. Thank y'all so much for all that you do. All right, let's go to the book of Matthew this morning. The book of Matthew, I told you I was going to begin to preach through this, Lord willing, on Sunday mornings. So we're going to be back there as well. And you're thinking to yourself, are you not going to preach a Mother's Day message? Yeah, I am, but it's probably going to be the most unorthodox Mother's Day marriage you've ever heard. It really is. I've never been one of these to try to preach to the occasion because I feel a lot of times that you put the Lord in a box there and what He's telling you to preach, you're trying to say, no, it ain't about whatever the occasion is, so you mess it up. But as I've studied this out here, the Lord has highlighted a lady in this text who just so happens to be a mom. So we're going to talk about her this morning. We're going to preach on Tamar. And I'd like to title this message, One Mess of a Mom. Because if you know anything about her whole life's a mess. Her whole life and everything that she has gone through, the build up to this, to the point that she is here in the text, is an absolute mess. And if we'd be honest here this morning, we could all look around and say, yeah, we're a mess too. I know that when me and Sue, we first had our kids, we had it all planned out how we were going to do it, and we talked about feeding schedules to dodge this and dodge that. We talked about how that we were going to do the splitting up the night duties, and you've got some of them, I've got some of them. We're going to do this, that, and the other, and it took us all of about 3 days to realize ain't none of that going to work. Ain't none of our plan going to work out. It's called being in the trenches when you've got those newborns. You're just trying to survive. You're just trying to make it. And we got 2 of them there, and we're just trying to make it. And a lot of times we get frustrated. Sue, she was talking to me yesterday. She said, I feel like I've cleaned this kitchen already today. I said, you have 3 times. And it was still a mess because when you have a toddler for a tornado or a tornado for a toddler, however you want to put that, they make messes in the house. They make messes in the car. They make messes in their room, in your room. They make messes of you. They make messes of everything that there is, and that's just momhood. If I've learned anything about it, is none of it is like the social media moms would have you to believe. It's not just some glamorous, wonderful thing that's all good all the time. A lot of times there's a lot of mess that goes along with the privilege of being a mom. I've seen pictures of people's church pews on Facebook, and there's toys, and there's water cups, and there's snacks, and there's all of that. And it's talking to a mom, encouraging that mom and saying, enjoy this while you can. I know you're overwhelmed. I know that it bothers you, but one of these days you're going to look up, and that pew's going to be clean because the kids ain't going to be on the pew with you no more. Enjoy that mess in the house because you're going to look up one day, and the kids aren't going to be there, and the mess is not going to be there anymore. And it's something that we look at now, and it frustrates us, and it bothers us, and it makes us mad all the time. Me and Darden about had a knockdown drag out yesterday because she had this little fruit popsicle thing, and she thought the best place to put her trash would be the middle of the living room. And Sue told her to put it in the trash can, and she said no. That's a hot button for me. I don't like that word no, especially coming from my toddler. So I said, you gonna do it, or I'm gonna whip you. She went over there and she got it, and she made it about 2 or 3 steps from the trash can. She knows how to throw it away. And she looked at it and she wanted to hand it to me and said, you do it. I said, I ain't doing it. I am not. So I'm in the middle of the kitchen having a Mexican standoff with my daughter here, trying to figure out who's going to crack first. And it's a mess. Everywhere you look is a mess. And I finally, after 4 or 5 times of telling her, I'm like, I'm fixing to wear you out. I'm fixing to whip you if you don't throw this thing away because I'm going to win this battle. You ain't going to get it today. You ain't going to win. And she looked at me and said, you do it. So I popped her on her butt. And she looked at me and she said, that hurts so bad. I'm like, no, it didn't. I hit you like that. Just enough to get your attention. But then she threw that thing away. It's a mess, okay? I'm trying to tell you this morning that we have a lot of moms in the text that we could preach on. We can look at plenty of them. We can talk about Mary, the mother of Jesus. We can talk about the Proverbs 31 woman there. We can talk about Ruth or Elizabeth. We can talk about all these famous women in the Bible that everybody wants to preach about. But that's not where the Lord's directed my heart. He's put me on the case of Tamar here and everything that's going on in her life. And when we look at it, we're going to realize what a mess she is. And what a mess that she's living in. But we're going to see throughout the message here that God takes her mess and He turns it into a masterpiece. And I found that's exactly what God will do with our lives. He'll take our mess of a life and He'll make it a masterpiece. So let me read Matthew chapter 1, verse number 1 here. The book of the generation of Jesus Christ, the son of David, the son of Abraham. It's given us the family tree of Jesus, okay? Keep that in your mind. Abraham begat Isaac, and Isaac begat Jacob, and Jacob begat Judas and his brethren. Now, Judas here, that's Judah, okay? They're spelled it different here in the Greek. It's Judah. And Judas begat Phares and Zar of Tamar, that is Tamar. And Phares begat Esrom, and Esrom begat Aram. All right? So here we have in the text, it's giving us all these great men, is it not? It's showing us all of these individuals. It starts with Abraham. And then it goes to Isaac, and then to Jacob, and then to Judah. But I'm curious here in the text because it doesn't tell us anything about their wives. Who was one of the most famous women in the Bible when it comes to wives? She was in her 90s, around 90 years old when she had a child. Who was it? Sarah, Abraham's wife. But guess what? It says something about Abraham, but nothing about Sarah. Okay, what about next? Who's going to end up marrying Isaac there? Rebekah. But it don't say anything about Rebekah. Well, then who's going to marry Jacob? Rachel and Leah. Doesn't say anything about them. It gives us nothing about these wives here in the text that people would look at and say that they have it together. No, the first woman that it tells us in the lineage of Jesus Christ is Tamar. Why? Why, of all the women in the Bible to pick from, why would it pick her to point out to us in the text and to bring our attention unto her? I'll tell you why. God has a way of showing us the type of people that He puts in the lineage here of Jesus Christ and how that He involves everybody. How that everybody has the same equal opportunity to come unto Him and be part of the family of God. He's not a respecter of persons this morning. He's telling us right here in the text, He's showing us very quickly that anybody can be a part of the family of God. Anybody can be saved. Well, Brother Easton, what's so bad about Tamar? I'm glad you asked. Go to Genesis chapter 38. Let me preach a little bit about her. I want to give you quickly this morning, no subpoints, 7 main points, okay? I promise to be quick. Don't let that scare you. 7's the number of completion, perfection in the Bible. So that's what we're going to do this morning. 7 things that I want to tell you about the life of Tamar here and what she is going through. The things that she is living through in the mess of her life. In verse number 1 of Genesis 38, it says, "It came to pass at that time that Judah went down from his brethren and turned into a certain Adulamite, whose name was Hira. And Judah saw there a daughter of a certain Canaanite, whose name was Shua." Don't get confused, Shua is her daddy's name, okay? It's going to pop up again here in the text in a minute. It's the daughter of Shua. "And he took her and went in unto her, and she conceived and bare a son, and called his name And she conceived again and bare a son, and she called his name Onan. And she yet conceived, and bare a son, and called his name Shelah. And he was at Chezib when she bare him." Right here, "And Judah took a wife for his firstborn, whose name was Tamar." This is the same individual that is telling us about over in Matthew chapter number 1. I want to point some things out about her, but to do that, I believe we got to get inside of her mind this morning and go back to what is happening here when she realizes that she's about to get married. Sue's family, her mama and her sisters, they used to do wedding coordinating. It was a great time for them, I guess. I just had to go help clean everything up and pick everything up and do all that. So I didn't have that much of a fun time with it. But they got to do it. And they dealt with some bridezillas because they have dreamed about that day their entire life. They know what they want their wedding to be like. Some of them want it outside. Some of them want it inside. Some of them want this color. Some of them want roses. Some of them want crystal vases and things of that nature. Some want this. Some want that. It's all over the place. Everybody's got a picture of how they want that day to be. Sue had a picture of how she wanted our wedding night, our wedding day to be. She had told me the whole time we dated for 5 years before we got married. She had told me the whole time that she wanted an outdoor wedding. She wanted to get married down there in her grandparents' boathouse and looking over the lake with sunset pictures and all of that. That's what she wanted. That was her dream wedding. Until her sister had an outdoor wedding down at Starkville, and it come a pouring down rain monsoon shower on us, and everybody was absolutely soaked, and there was wet food all over the tables, and guess who got to clean it up? Me and Sue. So now all of a sudden she changed her mind real quick. We don't want an outdoor wedding. We want an indoor wedding because we ain't going to deal with that. So we had an indoor wedding, but she had a picture of how she wanted it to be. I could go around this morning and I could ask all of you ladies what your life was pictured to be like. When you were back home and you were a little bitty and you were playing house. And you got to pretend how you were going to live. You had a job that you wanted to do. You had some kids that you wanted to have. You had a house that you wanted to live in. You had a car that you wanted to drive. You had a life. You had a picture of that. And that is what you wanted. That's what you were looking for. That was the picture of how you set it up. The problem with those pictures is, I go around this morning and ask you to raise your hand, how many of us are living the picture that we had way back when? I'd venture to say it's not many of us. You want to ask me when I was in high school if I thought I was going to be pastoring the church? I'd have laughed you out the door. I would have said, ain't no way, I ain't even going to preach. I ain't going to do it. I don't want to have nothing to do with it, and God has a sense of humor. I went to engineering school because I wanted to have some money. I wanted to be able to go and do some things. And I was going to be an engineer, and I was going to run around and blow and go and do whatever I wanted to do. I'm a sophomore in engineering school. God calls me to preach, and everybody's like, you going to quit school?
I'm like, I hope not. I hope he don't make me quit school. I done spend too much money at this place. And he let me get my degree, and he's allowing me to use it right now. We'll see what the future holds. But I had a picture of how I wanted life to be. And once I had that picture in my mind, God has thrown me curveball after curveball after curveball, and He has changed my life into what He wanted it to be. And I'm glad He's done it. I'm glad that He's changed my life. I'm glad that He's changed my picture up, because the picture He had in mind for me was so much better than what I had for myself. So much better. He rescued me from me, if I can put it that way. Because my picture that I had and the picture that Tamar has here is not what God had in store for her. What do you think her picture was about? Well, what is every other lady that's about to get married? She wants her to have a good husband. She wants that husband that loves her, that husband that cares for her, that husband that provides for her. She wants to be loved. She wanted kids. She wants to raise a family. Really? She wants to raise a family? Yeah, it's all in the text. She goes a long way to have some children. She wanted some kids. She wanted to raise a family. I don't believe that she wanted the whole world. She wasn't looking for riches. She wasn't looking for the biggest house. She might not have been looking for any of that, but her picture was a simple, loving home. That's what she wanted. I believe there's a lot of women today, they just want somebody to love them. They just want a husband to care for them. They just want a loving home that will be there for them. Something that they can be proud to go home to in the evenings. This is what she has on her mind, but she's not going to get it. She's not going to get that. And I want you to know this morning, moms, dads, whoever this applies to, you might have had a picture in your mind of how you wanted your life to go, but it didn't go that way. And I want you to know it's not a problem that it didn't go that way. It's not the end of the world that it didn't go the way you wanted, because God had another way for it to go, and His way is going to be better. His way is going to be great. Look where you are this morning. The picture that you have for your life might not have had you on a church pew on Mother's Day morning. The picture that you have for your life might have been running around doing everything but serving God. But look where you are right now. Your picture might have had your family in completely different circumstances. But now look around and look at the family that you got. Now look around and see where you are this morning. You see, she had this great picture of what she wanted and how she wanted life to be. But then verse number 7 shows up and her picture is shattered and it becomes a mess. It says that Judah's firstborn, this is her husband, was wicked in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord slew him. You really think that was in her picture and her plan for how her wedding was going to go? How her life was going to go? That she was going to get married and hope that she had a good, loving husband, and instead she got one that was so wicked that God slew him? I don't believe that was her plan. I don't believe that was part of her picture. I believe there's a lot of folks in this day and time that they're living something that is not their picture right now, and they're upset and they feel like the whole world is on their back, and they're beat down and they're a mess and they're broken, and they just want somebody to come in and fix it. That's Tamar's life this morning. I want you to see that it's not just you that it's happened to, but it's happened to others as well, and God is taking care of them just like He's going to take care of you as well. Her own husband was so wicked in the sight of the Lord that God slew him. Think about that. Now, we know all throughout the Bible there's plenty that are wicked that God comes in and kills, but not many of them that He takes personal attention to single them out and go and do it Himself. A lot of times He delivers them in the hand of somebody else and lets somebody else do it. But no, this man was so wicked that God came and took care of it Himself. God slew him. God got rid of him. God took him out of the picture. Now, the Bible doesn't tell us exactly how the wedding was and how their life together was and their marriage. But I can guarantee you, if he was so wicked that God took him out of this thing, he probably wasn't the best to live with. Is that fair this morning? Is it fair to see that if he was so wicked in the eyes of God, he probably wasn't the one that was bringing her gifts and roses and carrying her on dates and trying to serenade her and love her and be the good, loving husband that she wanted? No, instead of that, he was so wicked to everybody around him that God took him out. Her picture was nothing like what she ended up with, because life came by and life got in the way and life started happening, and next thing you know, what she wanted for herself is no longer there. I was in North Carolina. We went up there when the hurricane and all that hit. We took a van load of folks and a trailer of tools, and we went up there with chainsaws, everything under the sun. We was going to clean up there. And while I was there and we were working, one of the guys that I worked with called me. And he said, I don't think I'm going to do this. I feel like I bit off more than I can chew. Just out of the blue. Or he texted me that out of the blue. And my immediate thinking is, I'm like, oh, what's going on, man? There's more to the story than this. I said, I'm going to call you. He said, no, I'm okay. I said, I'm going to call you, and you better answer the phone. So I called him, and he began to tell me everything that's going on. And it was this hit, and this hit, and this hit. Flat tire, messed up rim, can't pay this, can't pay that, not feeling good, hips hurting, yada, yada, over and over and over again. And I finally just told him, I said, do you want my answer? He said, yeah. I said, you're not going to like my answer. He said, why? I said, my answer is this. Sounds like you got a heavy dose of life. And he kind of looked at me. He knew what I was meaning. He knew I wasn't being mean to him. But what I was trying to tell him is this. Life happens. Things go wrong. Things get messed up. Sometimes it rains. Sometimes it pours. They say it comes in threes. Things happen in our lives that we wish would not have happened, but we can't change the fact, looking back, that they did. Now all we do is go on. And we live with what we got. Sometimes you think life's throwing you a fastball, but at the last moment it curves off because they threw you a curveball instead. And you're left sitting there trying to catch it. Tomorrow's right there. She had this picture of how it was going to go, but then problems popped up when her wicked husband came into the picture, and everything that she had in her own mind was ruined. It was nothing like she thought it was going to be. Can I say that her picture was shattered and her life was a mess? But I don't know, it doesn't end right there. Because you see, after God slays that one wicked husband, it says in verse number 8 that Judah said unto Onan, his second son, go in unto thy brother's wife, and marry her, and raise up seed to thy brother. This was the custom back then. If one of the brothers died, or a family member died and did not have any children, the next of kin would go in. It's the same thing that happened with Ruth and Boaz. The next of kin would go in, raise up children to their brother so that the family name would not die, okay? Now, I'm not going to read the next verse because I want to keep it PG. Mamas, daddies, y'all read it and you'll see what I'm talking about. But Onan goes in here to his sister-in-law and his wife now Tamar. He goes in to do his duty to provide her with children. And when he gets there, he doesn't fulfill his duty. You read it, you study it. I'm not preaching it this morning, okay? But he goes in there and he does not fulfill his duty. He doesn't do everything that he's supposed to do. He doesn't cross the finish line, okay? And I can't go no farther with that. But he does not do everything that is required for him to give children unto that lady. Instead, he serves himself. He is selfish, and he was there for his own gratification and had no care for her and what turned out in her life. And the thing that he did was wicked in the eyes of God, so God killed him too. Think about that. Have you ever been down? Have you ever felt that you're on the bottom? That your life is just ruined? That you're broken? That you're miserable? That nothing is going well for you? And somebody comes in that says they're going to help? And you're like, yes, that's exactly what I need. And right when you need them most, they only do what they want to do. They serve themselves. And they leave you high and dry. That one that came in and said, I know your life's messed up, but I'm here for the long haul. I'm here to help you out. I'm here to love on you. I'm here to fill that gap. I'm here to do what you need me to do. I'm here to replace that one who ruined your picture in the first place. But then they get into that thing, and all they want to do is take advantage of you and serve themselves, have their own fun time, and then leave. That's what Onan has done. Onan has gone in there, done only what he wanted to do. Had no concern for her. Had no concern whatsoever with what Tamar was going through. And the things that she was dealing with. And the hurt that she had in her life. And now that all she wanted was somebody to love her. And she wanted some kids to love. And a home to be a part of. That's all that she wanted in her life. Her first husband was wicked and died. The second one comes along and took advantage of her and then left. Brother Easton, surely that's not happening. Surely that's not happening here in Myrtle, Mississippi. Are you blind? Look around. It's happening everywhere. Broken families are the new normal. It's hit everybody. It has hit every single family now. There's people out there that are hurting and broken because of this thing. It has gotten in every home that we have. They have their picture in their mind of how they want it to be. We all stood before God in front of those witnesses, and we held our hands, and we said, in the good times and bad, in sickness and in health, till death do us part. And the next thing you know, months or years down the road, we're parting. Because we had no care for that individual. The picture that we had on our wedding night of how we were going to celebrate our 60th wedding anniversary is now out the window. The picture is shattered and it's a mess now. There's couples all over the place that have been married 15, 20 years, and they are breaking up and they are leaving. And they're quitting on one another. Tamar here, all she wanted was to be loved. All she wanted was somewhere she belonged. All she wanted was somebody to be a part of her family. And one of them left her high and dry because it was wicked. And the next one took advantage of her. And there was one more son left. There's just one more chance here. Verse 11, then said Judah to Tamar, his daughter-in-law, remain. I love this in the text. Okay, I've asked some questions of people smarter than me. Nobody's given me a good answer yet. So I'm going to go with my answer. Look at that word remain and notice that it's a capital R. A capital R following a comma. In the English language, you do not capitalize a word after a comma unless it's a noun. For some reason here, the Word of God has got that capitalized. And it's been my experience here, like I said, I ain't got no Bible on it, but it's been my experience that every time one of these words is capitalized, God is highlighting that in the text because it's a key. It's important to understand that. If you don't believe me, go and look at the woman with the issue of blood over there in Luke chapter number 8, if memory serves. When Jesus says, somebody touched me, guess what's capitalized? That S in the word somebody. Because she was somebody to him. He knew her personally. So this R here says, remain a widow at thy father's house. You know what Judah's doing here? Out of sight, out of mind. It's his responsibility to take care of her, to give her his third son. That's what the law said. That's the biblical thing to do, to take care of her. But instead he says, no. Just remain a widow, but don't do it here. Don't do it where I have to see you. Don't do it where I have to worry about you. Go back to your father's house. Go remain over there so that I don't have to worry. I don't have to think. I don't have to feel guilty about it. I don't have to look at you. I don't have to think about my two boys that have been dead as soon as they married you. Did he blame her for that? Yeah. He absolutely did. My voice cracked so good right there. Yeah, he absolutely did. He absolutely did blame her for that. You not believe me? What's it say? Remain a widow at thy father's house till Shelah my son be grown. For he said, pay attention here, that L's capitalized, lest peradventure he die also, as his brethren did. Tamar went and dwelt in her father's house. You know what Judah's saying? He's saying this girl Tamar is a curse. She is good for nobody. Everybody that comes close to her is dying. I want her nowhere near me. So guess what he's done? He's turned his back on her. He said, I'm done with you. I know there's nobody like that here this morning who has ever had, it feels like everybody turning on them. Nobody's on their side. They're all alone. Nobody understands. You just feel like you're you against the world. Surely there's nobody here this morning that has ever felt that they have nobody on their side. But a crowd this side, I venture to say there's more than one. I would say there's more than one here this morning who has got to a point in their life where their picture as they had for themselves has been shattered and broken. Their life is a mess. And when they turn for help, help has left and gone away. And they've been left all alone. That's what's happening tomorrow. That's what's going on in her life right now. I said the title of the message is One Mess of a Mom. It's a mess. Can we not look at her this picture of her life here and the story that she's living and say that this is a tragedy? It is a mess in her life. Tamar has done nothing wrong. Nothing at all. Nothing wrong. She has been exactly how she's supposed to be. Even when all these people have turned their back on her and sent her away back to her father's house. By the way, I'm glad when I have nowhere else to go, I can go to the father's house. That's a little tidbit. It wasn't in the notes, but it sounds good. I sure am glad I can go back to the Father's house when I ain't got nowhere else to go. But they've sent her away, and she's gone over to her father's house, and I can imagine the conversation when she's talking to her daddy, saying, Dad, I didn't do anything wrong. I tried to love them. I tried to care for them. I tried to do my job as a wife. I've done everything I was supposed to do, and it just did not work out. I'm sure nobody in here has ever had that prayer. Lord, I'm doing everything that I can. I'm trying. I'm trying to raise my family. I'm trying to lead them. I'm trying to love you. I'm trying to be faithful to the church. I'm trying to be biblical. I'm trying to be right. I'm doing everything that I can. It feels like I'm getting nothing out of it. Every youth that I've dealt with has had that same problem. Time and time again, they come to me and they would say, I just feel like I'm trying to do so good. And everybody around me that is doing bad has everything that I want and I'm getting nothing. Seems like the devil's crowd is prospering. And all that are righteous in the eyes of God are sinking. And it's real easy for us to sit there and have our pity party and say, Lord, I'm doing good. Why can't I have some of these things? Why can't I have my picture of my life how I want it to be? I don't know. Tamar didn't know. Her daddy didn't know. Didn't have the answers there. But in verse 12 it says, in the process of time, the daughter of Shua, Judah's wife, died. And Judah was comforted, and he went up unto his sheep shearers to Timnath, and his friend Hira, the Dulamite. And it was told Tamar, saying, behold, there's another capital B after that comma, by the way. Behold, thy father-in-law goeth up to Timnath to shear his sheep. Now she comes up with this plan here, how she's going to get back at this. Tamar has got to that point in time in her life where she is done laying down. She's going to get on up, and she's going to take care of this herself. If you're not familiar with the story, I would recommend that you go back and you read it. It's a mess. It is a mess. It is one of those texts that you get done reading it and you're scratching your head like, what in the world did I just read? Surely I misunderstood something. No. She finds out that her father-in-law did not give her that last son that she was promised, has turned his back on her, sent her back to her father's house, forgot all about her, wrote her off, is done with her, and she says, I'm not going to take it, I'm not going to go that way, I'm going to have my revenge, I'm going to do what I need to do, I'm going to get what I want to get out of this. She takes matters into her own hands, she dresses up like a harlot, goes and sits on the street side, and when Judah, her father-in-law, comes by, he entices her, and they end up going, and they have a child together. Matter of fact, they have 2 children together. That's a mess, ain't it? That's a mess. That sounds like something we all look at and be like, oh my goodness, that's so taboo. Why is that in the Word of God? I'll tell you why it's in the Word of God. Because as big of a mess as this story is, as nasty as it is, as wicked as it is, as wrong as it is, we can look at that and something good came out of it. And what came out of it was a little boy by the name of Perez. A little boy by the name of Perez. Why is Perez so important? I'm glad you asked. You see, God took her mess of a life and He turned it into a model for somebody else's life. Huh? He took a story like this that was so backwards and messed up that everybody's even kind of cringing just reading it, and took that and made it a model for somebody else's life? Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Go read book of Ruth, chapter number 4, verse number 12. Huh? You want me to do it for you? Let me find it. I got it right here. Ruth chapter 4, verse number 12. This is right after Boaz has claimed Ruth as the next of kin, and her life is about to turn around. That has been a mess, by the way. Her life was a mess as well, and now God's going to step in. Verse number 12 says this: the elders here of the city, they are giving their blessing on Boaz and Ruth here. Okay? They've had that public hearing where Boaz has claimed Ruth as the next of kin. They're putting their blessing on that. It says, and let thy house be like the house of Perez, whom Tamar bare unto Judah, of the seed which the Lord shall give thee of this young woman. Huh? You want to tell me that a big mess like Tamar's life is the one that the elders of this city wished on Boaz and Ruth and said, I wish that God would come in and make your life and prosper you just like He did Perez, who came from Tamar because of Judah. Mama, Daddy, I want you to know that mess of a home that you got, that mess of a testimony, that mess of a life you're living, somebody else is looking at that and wishing that they had it. Huh? Why in the world would they do that? I'll tell you why. We get a little personal this morning. Me and Sue got 2 kids, but there's a time we didn't know we'd have any. Okay? There's a time we didn't know if we was going to have any kids. There was a time where everybody else around us seemed to be having kids whenever they wanted to, but we're sitting there crying ourselves to sleep tonight because we're trying, and God ain't blessing. God ain't giving us nothing. And we're wondering, Lord, why? Why can't we just have some? People are throwing them in dumpsters and trash cans, and we can't have them. We would love them and give them to you. And after we had Darden, and after she started to walk, I was sitting in my recliner one Sunday morning, and I was working on a message. And I just didn't have it together yet. I had some notes, but it just wasn't in my heart to preach yet. And we just heard this coming down the hallway. My little baby feet run down the hallway. And I looked at Sue, and Sue said, you don't know how long I waited to hear that noise. Our house is a mess. The car's a mess. The car seat's got chalk all over it because we had to bring our chalk with us when we went somewhere the other day. It's all a mess everywhere we looked, but we prayed for that mess. We asked God for that mess. We asked God that He'd do that in our family. Mamas and daddies, the ones that are here and are frustrated and feel like it's all a mess and it's all been for nothing, somebody else is praying for your mess. Somebody else would love to have to clean up from your kids. Somebody else would love to have mess all over their pews, but they can't because they don't have that mess. You know what's happening here with Ruth and Boaz? Ruth's husband's dead too. Now Boaz has come around. And the very same mess that Tamar had is what Ruth is wanting in her life. She says, I would love to have some kids. I would love to have that in my life. Bring me that mess. I would take it. I would love it. You might be here this morning and you look at your own life. You look in that mirror and you think, man, you sure are a mess. You're a mess. Your clothes are messed up. Your hair's ratty. Your clothes are not matching. Your house is a wreck. Your car's a wreck. The kids don't act right. You can't do nothing right. Everybody looks at you funny. You smell. I don't care what it is this morning. We'll look at our lives and we think to ourselves, we're just a big old mess. But God wants to take your mess and put it up as a model in somebody else's life. But not only does He want to put it up as a model in somebody else's life, you know what else He did? He took our mess and made a model, but He took our mess and He gave us the Messiah. You ever thought about that? This Perez here, he's in Matthew chapter number 1. He's in the lineage of Christ. He's one of the ones that Jesus comes through. I don't care how broken your life is this morning. I don't care how much of a mess it is. I don't care if your picture is shattered. I don't care if you can't pick the pieces up and put them back together. What I'm trying to tell you this morning is that God will take those pieces and He'll put that mess back together and He'll turn it into a model for somebody else's life. And He might just give you a masterpiece at the end of it. I was watching a video the other day. And I'm done, ladies. If y'all want to get ready, come up here. Y'all come on when you're ready. I was watching a video the other day. This guy was laying tile. And he had these big old fancy tiles. And he dropped one. And when he did, it broke and it just splattered everywhere. Shattered and went into a million looking pieces. And then the bottom of the video said he broke one tile, so he decided to break them all. And that one tile that was broken messed up his whole floor. You know what he did? He began to go to each one of those other tiles. And he broke them up. And he broke this tile. And he broke that tile. And by the time he got done, it looked like nothing but a broken up, shattered mess to everybody that looked at it. But when he got done, that entire floor became a beautiful mosaic. What will God do with our lives? I'll tell you what He'll do. He'll take that mess. He'll take those broken pieces. He'll take those shattered dreams that you had that you thought was right for your life. He'll take all of those and He'll lay them out and He'll arrange them and He'll put them together and He'll put this one here and that one there and He'll bring another one in from over here. Another piece of that puzzle will come into your life. This is exactly what you were missing. And that person will come in and they'll complete that picture there. And when you look at it, it looked broken at first, but now it's a beautiful masterpiece of a mosaic. And it's called life. God has made His name taking broken things and fixing them and putting them back together. Moms, I just want you to know this morning, you're doing just fine. You're doing wonderful. You might look at your life and say, nothing is like I thought it was going to be. The one I thought was going to be in my life is not here. The job I thought that I was going to have is not here. The house I wanted is not here. The family that I thought I was going to have, it might not be there. It's all in pieces laying around. But I want to tell you this morning, instead of getting upset and griping about those pieces that were broken, why don't you just take a couple steps back and you look at all that thing together and you see what God has done with all those broken pieces. And now that He's put them back together and He's got you where you are this morning. As they play this morning, let's all stand.